Hi, everybody. It's Christina Quick. Welcome to season two, episode 11 of the Monday Magic and Marketing podcast. I hope that you guys are doing well. I hope you had a good weekend. We left off last week. We were talking about rich witch rituals. I'm very, very excited to be kind of wrapping up this season. I just wanted to go over really briefly, kind of like what are some things we've been talking about, just to kind of bring us back into perspective, right? Because today we're going to be talking a lot about how to take a step back from our business. So this whole season we've been talking about niching as one of the key integral parts of really expanding your income, expanding your impact, and being able to grow your business. So what happens when you begin to niche and really get comfortable in that niche is that you start to grow and you start to grow, grow, grow. Hi, Mindy. Good morning. Hope you guys are well. And so then the whole business thing really starts to shift and change, right? So we shift from being for the first couple years just being in client hustle mode, like trying to attract clients, just trying to make sure that we're hitting our income goals and making sure that we're attracting, going through that whole shift and change between, figuring out who we really truly want to work with, who our like happy clients are, the ones that feel really good for our nervous system, but also feel like that we are our most inspired self when we help them, right? And so we start to realize that for so many of us, and let me know if you can relate to this, but so many of us put so much into our businesses. It's kind of like it becomes almost our dominant thing that we focus on in life. And so for a really long time, it feels like the business is our purpose, right? And so we kind of merge our personality with our business and we kind of create the super ego. But then once we get to the point where we don't have to chase clients as much as we used to, when we don't have to chase those sales, it can start to feel like, am I doing enough? Right? Because we're so addicted to that busy work, so addicted to that hustle of finding our clients and finding the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, right? And so what happens is we start to take a step back and we start those feelings of like imposter syndrome, they start coming back because it's like, okay, you know, um, this is kind of easy for me now. Not necessarily easy, but it's not as difficult as it once was. And I'm making a lot of money, but still something is missing, right? Something's missing in my life. And so couple episodes back, I brought up the topic of redefining your purpose post success and figuring out, what is your what is your new purpose? What are your new purposes? What is it that you want to go out there and to manifest next? Because we're so focused on the money aspect in the beginning, and then it becomes a matter of, okay, what is it that the money is buying me, right? And it's usually freedom, time freedom, right? It's usually a level of health and wellness, being able to buy good groceries, good food, your doctor visits, your medications, all that kind of stuff, your mental health, taking care of all that, and then extending that to your family, taking care of that. And then it can start to feel like, do I still deserve all of these nice things, right? And so in order to feel into that and come out on the other side of it, in order to have a breakthrough in that, it means that we have to put ourselves out there and figure out new ways of showing up in the world that inspire us, right? Because the business, for so long, the business is our creative muse. Money is our creative muse. And so once we have the money portion taken care of, it's like, okay, now I need to become re inspired. So it's almost kind of like you're going on a brand new spiritual journey that's like the spiritual journey that you always really truly wanted to go on, but you had to set up the business aspect in order to support and be able to afford you the ability to have, the actual spiritual journey that you want to have. So and that can look like so many different things. Like for me, it looks like, and I talked about inner teen healing over the last couple of weeks, right? And so for me, it looks like going back and revisiting things from my teenagehood that I didn't get to manifest. Like things that are like on my bucket list of things that I always wanted to do, whether they're profitable or not is irrelevant. Just things that I wanted to do, right? Like set up a plant business where I'm selling plants and set up us be able to monetize gardening in some ways. And then, I have the snake therapy side business as well and reptile education. Like, so, finding that I have a lot of these interests and passions that not necessarily do I want to monetize, but I still need the business to continue monetizing it. And what's going to happen is that everybody fears stepping away from the business because they fear that that money is going to dry up. And to an extent that that is true, the moment that you step away, the people that rely on receiving a bit of your fresh new energy when you do show up for your business, they are going to go off and find the next person because that's what they get out of it, right? They get out of that fresh new energy every day. That's what they value the most. And so you'll have to re examine the way that you bring people value and open your mind up to different ways that you can bring value to people that maybe you hadn't considered before. So, if the way that you bring value to people, but you want to step away from your business, is that you primarily focus on one on ones, well, that's incompatible. That's not going to work, right? So, if you are primarily a one on one business, it's not going to work because what happens is when you step away, you're not making money, right? And that is like one of the most difficult parts if you don't follow the podcast, and go through all of the steps that I'm talking to you about, especially in the luxurious light worker program. That one is like my best best program I ever created, and it really goes from, like, your first dollar to, like, then setting up multiple businesses and things like that, so it really is an accelerated, but, like, super, like, strategic way to move and weave out of these different, phases of your business and, like, know what to do in order to elicit some kind of response, so first, if you don't have any passive income, that's like the very first thing that you're going to want to create. Now, maybe for you, stepping away from your business simply just means like taking an extra 1 or 2 days off, right? So maybe you work 5 days a week, you work a very standard, like 40 hour, you're still kind of working within that schedule. But you want to be able to have the business be able to pay you on the days that you aren't there so that you can go do whatever, you can volunteer your time, you can get another job, just a fun job, you can work seasonally someplace, or you can go back to school, or you can spend time with your kids, or, whatever it is that you wanna do, whatever ways in which you wanna enrich yourself, right? So we need some kind of passive or a semi-passive income strategy. Now, for some people, the idea of switching out of one-on-ones and just going into like selling passive income, like selling workshops or digital assets, downloadables, that sort of thing, that can be really scary. So there's a midway point where you can do like what's called a membership program, right? So instead of moving everybody from away from the one-on-one and instead doing, say, group coaching, where instead of meeting with your 10 people a month that you have, maybe you meet with them all once a month at the same time, right? So working smarter, not harder, figuring out ways that you can manifest a similar amount of money in a shorter, different ways you can compartmentalize that time, right? And then you have other options like membership, which is like switching from maybe doing one-on-one 1 hour one-on-ones to just doing like messenger support or something like that. So there's always going to be people that are going to move on away from you. There's always going to be people who you're not offering what they need out of a coach right now. And so we have to be okay with letting those people go. They'll always be around and they'll always come back when you have, when you bring, like every once in a while, if you want to bring back one-on-one sessions, you could totally do that, right? And you could bring it back and just for a period of time, and it could be like a special limited edition type of thing, right? Like maybe just seasonal or something like that. So you can still like get those people in, but have other options. So instead of maybe of doing one-on-ones, maybe you set up like a private Facebook group or something where you set office hours, where you can like say maybe I'll be here for 2 hours from like this time to this time once a week. And so everybody puts their questions in the group all throughout the week and then you sit there and for 2 hours you answer those questions instead of scheduling people out. So these are ways in which that you can really cut back on the amount of hours that you work, but still make a considerable amount of money. And so that's kind of like where most people are at. I want to talk to the people for the rest of this live, especially to the people who want to know what it's like to really take a step back, and for those who are wanting to kind of prepare for that or just kind of get an idea of what that might look like. I'm talking about like maybe working a couple days a week where you're just like answering messages. Maybe you have one-on-one session a week or something like that. And maybe you maybe show up. Yeah, I know this is kind of crazy, but maybe you show up to work once a month. And maybe that once a month action is going to set you up for making money all throughout that month. Right. And so one of the key things is that I feel like we all have a lot of pride in this idea of having the one business and making the one business be the one business that makes all the money. I can tell you, as a business mentor, that mindset is actually quite dangerous and it's not good to put all of your financial earnings into one business. We tend to have like this pride around it, like I have $1 million tarot reading practice or something like that. Everybody wants to brag about that. But not only is it not smart business, but it could potentially hurt you in the end, right? And so at this point, one of the key things is that to start thinking about is how am I going to diversify my income? How am I going to set up these little micro businesses? So it's not necessarily that you're not working. I mean, I don't know a lifestyle. I don't know a strategy that I can just sit around and do absolutely nothing all day and not work at all. Like that's not I haven't reached like that pinnacle of whatever. But it still requires some level of hands-on. And so instead, what I'm doing is finding ways to kind of like monetize my other things that I like to do that I don't really care if I make money necessarily, but at least it's maybe going to pay for itself or break even. So example, one of my favorite things to do is to garden and grow my own food in my backyard and grow flowers and houseplants and things like that. And that's been a hobby of mine for so long. And it's something that I put actually a lot of money into. I use all the highest quality stuff and I do use methods that require a lot of different things, and there's a lot of chemistry to it, and chemistry very expensive, right? The tools, the ingredients, all that kind of stuff. So the microscopes, all of the biology, microbiology things that kind of go into it. And so in order to basically fund this, I set up a side business. So when I am going to start here in a couple months growing my plants for out back, I'm going to grow like tomatoes and peppers and all that kind of stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grow an equal amount for me and an equal amount to sell. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go set them up at see if any of my friends at the farmers markets want to sell them for me, or go and I'm going to ask some of the local like nurseries if they want to buy them. My first plan of action is what I've been doing for the past 2 years, which has been great, is getting on the Nextdoor app, and which is basically like an app that ties in your whole neighborhood type of situation, and then getting on Facebook Marketplace and selling those. And so even if I'm breaking even, I'm at least paying for those supplies. So so it's not costing me any money. You see what I'm saying? And it's actually something that I would already be doing, right? I just gotta unload the stuff. And so not a big deal. It doesn't really take that much extra. And then, if I end up don't selling anything, well, then at that point I'll just give it away because that's really the dream anyways, to be able to just give stuff away, right? And so, that's how I've worked that out. And then I have other side businesses like revenue and profit sharing type of businesses where I'm especially on YouTube. And by the way, I just got my 250,000 view achievement. So that was really cool to see this morning. So I got to see that. So that means I've had 250,000 views on YouTube, which is incredible. That's a lot. That's a lot, and it's exciting and finding these little things to kind of keep you going. And then some other things that I do that I'll monetize is like doing seasonal stuff, right? Like seasonal stuff is a really great way to kind of segue your business into still being able to make money, but showing up in a limited capacity. Okay. So seasonal, we've talked about evergreen content, right? We've talked about like evergreen, what that means. So just in case you haven't heard about that or haven't watched that episode yet, evergreen basically means that when we go to create something, it's repeatable, meaning that the shelf life of the piece of content, say the shelf life of a piece of content that talks about like the astrology of the week versus the shelf life of a piece of content that talks about how to find your lunar astrology and what all 12 signs mean in the lunar phase, right? Okay. So what is the shelf life of that? What is the expectation of how long that piece of content is going to be valuable? And so shifting away from, we think seasonal, we think like Easter, Christmas, stuff like that. That is, yes, but also seasonal as in like it pertains to certain seasons. So astrology is probably one of the easiest ones to create seasonal content with because it repeats, like seasonal content regarding what sign the moon is in or what sign the sun is in or any of these astrological transits, like Mercury retrograde and stuff like that. Like, what does that all mean? Like things, periodical things that come up during the year that you can create content around that continues to get you organic views and sales and introduces new people to your audience, right? Without you having to create new content. So that is the power. That's the power of seasonal evergreen content. So there's evergreen, but there's also seasonal evergreen, right? So evergreen is like, okay, you create it once and then it's good always and it doesn't really expire, right? The information's good always. And then there's seasonal evergreen, which is like the super powered version of that. And so if you're wanting to take a step back, investing your time now into creating seasonal content, even if you don't think that you want to take a step back anytime soon, that is the hack, the strategy that I would say that's how you're going to help maintain your magical money portal. And is thinking about all the ingenious ways that you can create content that is on a cyclical nature, right? And so I talk about astrology as being like one of the ones that's really easy to do because us spiritual folks, we always want to know what this transit means, this retrograde means, this kind of stuff. This conjunction, this square, what does it mean? And especially for like the ones that happen on a regular yearly basis. Um, Also things like equinoxes and asbets and sabbats, if you participate in the wheel of the year. Even mainstream holidays are still really great for people like us. So like for example, Valentine's Day is literally coming up like this week, right? And so if you were smart at the beginning of maybe January, you would have started pushing out Valentine's Day content, or love and relationship based content, depending on what your niche is, So if you're a love and relationship coach, well, then you can push out, information about Valentine's Day and maybe do like general readings for Valentine's Day and stuff like that. But here's the thing, right? Is that we have to do it. We have to get like a head start. So Valentine's Day is this week. Does that mean that you've missed that money portal? No, that doesn't mean you've missed it, but you're definitely not going to capitalize on it. right? So I got my piece of content out last week, last Wednesday. So I gave myself a week and a half to, even that was cutting it. Like I probably should have done that in January, but that's real life. Sometimes we get backed up and sometimes like that snowstorm took us out. So you just do what you can do. But I wanted to share some of those numbers with you. All right. So the numbers from that video. So it was a 2 hour, let's see, lead generation magnet. So just give you an idea. So technically, I mean, I really don't have to create like any more content for this month. I'm going to finish up the podcast, but I can literally step away now for, a couple months and you're going to see me begin to start stepping away again, because I'm going into program mode with Madam Z, and we're going to be doing Coven, which is launched, by the way. If you are interested in that, I will leave the link down below. I think we have like 4 more spots, maybe 5 more spots. It's halfway sold out already. So I recommend that if you are interested in getting in on the Coven program to get in that ASAP because it's gonna sell out. So I created that video and that video was basically to go back and first of all, look at the content I've already created. It's always easier. This is what I say to people all the time. It's always easier to go back and retarget old content that you have rather than continually coming up with new content. I would say AI has definitely changed that a little bit for us. It's easier to like go to AI and be like, "I have this idea. What are some more ideas?" So it's a little bit easier to be like because the emotional labor, the mental labor of continue like pre-AI, like people will never understand it. It's definitely like one of those used to walk to school in 3 feet of snow, 10 miles each way, type of situation where um, coming up with content ideas and the intellectual labor that went behind that, so difficult. AI has kinda, relieved a little bit of that kind of stress for us, so we can kinda use that in that way to kinda help us, like, inspire us, okay, like, tell AI like, one of my favorite ways to use AI now is to be like, "Okay, I have this idea for this piece of content. What are, like, 3 more ideas that kind of relate to this piece of content?" And I'll use that to kinda, like, inspire me. So, I put that video up, my goal was, let's see, I always like to make 500 on a weekend. I mean, that's always nice, like 500 or 1,000, right? Total sales, right? And so you also have to understand too, when you utilize this method, what's going to happen is you're going to, you we get so locked in and so focused on like, okay, this particular video needs to make me this amount, or this action needs to make me this amount of money, right? So we get real focused on it and we start to feel like a failure for that particular strategy. Yeah, right. That particular strategy doesn't turn out the financial outcome that we're looking for. But what we have to understand is that um, actions are cumulative. So there's actions that you are taking today that you may not have much benefits until a year from now, right? And so it's like you're almost kind of like quantumly in the beginning building your business. You're making these really strong actions, taking these really strong actions. In Mindy's case, redoing her Etsy shop and getting better with her descriptions and things like that, right? Which she may not see an immediate return on, but it's going to cumulatively, it's going to add to the total amount of income that's coming in, right? And so when I did that video last Wednesday, then I put like a $10 ad budget on it. Got like almost 2,000 views for just like $5. And then I ended up for that particular campaign was to sell my old workshop, the art of the art of intuitive storytelling and tarot. Well, I ended up doing 200 from that on I put $10 in, but I only spent $5. So I ended up spending 2 hours of my time and $5 and made 200 off that campaign. And then I sold 2 other $100 things that they bought in conjunction because they were already buying that other thing. So it was like they added something else to the cart. So that was another $200. And then I had, a Coven sale come in, and that was a 300 plus dollar. So I ended up doing dang near $1,000 over the weekend from the work that I did last Wednesday for 2 hours, spent $5 on it. And that's how this works, right? And so that is how you can utilize content, leverage your content, throw a little bit of ad money at it, and potentially walk away with, $1,000 in a weekend, right? And that's because it has to be the key strategy here is it has to be seasonal, evergreen content. What was my content? It was the 22 major arcana meanings for tarot card meanings for love and relationships. That means that not only is everybody who wants to learn tarot card meanings going to go to that video, they're going to learn that, but every Valentine's Day, people are going to watch that video again, right? And so the algorithm is naturally going to boost it already. So that's that part. And then repurposing and retargeting to content you've already created, like that was a workshop I created. Um, you know, Casey says definitely need to start doing content, stop being afraid of it. Yeah. Like literally my video was so bad because it was over Zoom and the quality was so bad, but like nobody cared. Yeah, nobody cared, Like they're just there to get the info. And if they want to invest in the workshop, that's what they got. Okay. Yeah, and refreshing. Okay, so I was looking at my notes here. So another thing that I've been doing lately is going through like my old podcast episodes, my old videos, transcribing them and turning them into blog posts. So that's another way that you can really like take a step back and you don't even have to film new content. Like that's you don't even have to create new content. Really, you just what you can do is the smart way to do that is to go to Scribed. I think it's Scribed or Scribby or something like that.com. I use that. It cost me like $5 or $10 a video. I put it in, AI generates an entire transcript of that whole entire video. And then I have that transcript, and then I can sit there excuse me, and create like little blog posts out of it. Or I can use that text to create social media prompts and things like that. So, way easier than continually coming up with new videos. Like once you have your core 90 days, 12 weeks worth of 12 videos, right? Once you have your 12, what I teach in Luxurious Lightworker, once you have that, you have what's called your content vault, right? And so once you have that, then if you go seasonal, evergreen, then you could literally do that for a year and never create a new piece of content ever again and just send ads to it and make money off of it, right? But I think we get so trapped and so caught up in this, I need to create new content to stay relevant. No, you don't. You just need to work the content that you have and be smart about the content that you release. Hi, Christine. Good to see you. That's my project for the next few months, blog posts from videos. Yep, that's what I'm doing. That's me. Hello, 2025. Hi, Carolina. Good to see you. So you recommend that your signature program should be 12 weeks. So you're talking about, let me make sure I'm understanding what you're talking about. So you want to create your own signature program and you're asking me, should it be 12 weeks? Okay, because that is something people would pay for. You could do, I would say if you're going to do a signature program, no less than 4 weeks. Okay. But you could do like boot camp style, which is like 6 to 8 weeks. I recommend if you can create a 12-week one, which is basically a 3-month program, definitely. And then from there, you might go up to like a 6 month. I have a 6 month program. I have a 3-month program. I have a 6 month program. I have a 1 year program. I've created all of those in the last 7 years. So I hope I answered your question. But what I'm saying about your 12 weeks of content is that so the algorithm 90 days for your content to begin getting eaten up and absorbed by the algorithm and integrated into the search functions. And so what I recommend is one piece of content, like one YouTube video per week for 12 weeks straight. That's okay. I just wanna make sure I understand what you're asking me because I don't wanna give you the wrong information, right? So, that's why I say 12 weeks, commit for 12 weeks, right? 1 piece of content a week. Hi, Beth. Yeah, I love the recycling concept, 8-week boot camps. I love 8-week boot camps. I think they're so transformational, and those really lead into, like, your 5K, 2K, 5K, 10K package deal. And a lot of the times you can very easily sell like an 8-week boot camp program for like, I don't know, 500 bucks, $1,000 and per person, right? And then usually they want to get into your one-on-one. So that can very easily be, a 3 to 5K, 10K sale for sure. I like, personally, I like 3-month programs because I tend to be long-winded. But if you're thing is that you deliver in a really straightforward way, then, maybe, finding what makes sense to you. And then, if you've never run a signature program, you might want to go with a shorter one because I always say it's always better to leave people wanting more than, having too much. And so, I've told people like, just start with like a 4-week program. Just start with like or like a 6-week program. They seldom finish in time, right? Right, exactly, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so refreshing older content, we've talked about that. Recycling your old content instead of, continually reinventing the wheel, and I think we kind of feel guilty about that. Don't feel guilty about recycling your content. Truly don't feel bad about it. I'm gonna tell you why, because psychologically speaking, people need to hear the same thing at least 7 to 10 times in different ways. So, verbal, reading about it, watching it, that sort of thing, and they need to hear it a minimum of 7 to 10 times before people even start listening, before people start even really understanding. You see what I'm saying? Carolina says, "That's where I am now. Mine is 7 weeks, and I am kicking myself for not making it longer because the group was in such a good place to get more." So, your key thing, for finishing up that program is going to be don't, telling your clients, "Don't let the momentum end." Our container is only 7 weeks. Work it into your unique selling proposition. This container is only 7 weeks long, but I feel like, with a lot of you itchy nose, allergies. But with a lot of you, I feel like we're just getting started. And so that's when you really need to pitch, like maybe, you could do live group coaching, like a live group coaching thing with them, or maybe you could pitch your one-on-one 3-month package, something like that. So capitalize on it. You're in that feeling, that urgency that you're feeling that the program is ending and everybody else that, the program's ending, they're all feeling that too. So utilize that as a sense of urgency to get people into your one-on-one because you don't want their momentum to end. You want to help them keep going, right? Okay. Okay. So let's say that you don't really want to continue creating content as far as here's what kind of happens is you start getting lonely. You're like, If I have to create another video, right?" And you start wanting to like hang out with people while you're working. One of the best things that you can do is start getting very serious about getting on other people's podcasts and start doing guest appearances and start doing that like really regularly. Because one of the things that you'll never be able to do is outperform someone else's audience that they've narrowed in and gotten fine tuned and that they've done the work to build their own audience. And I mean, like as far as like your ad budget or your new reach goals and things like that, when you have good friends and in a good place in their business that, also have kind of like a similar business, you don't want to like choose people that have like the same exact business as you. You want to make sure that you understand like where your uniqueness is and where their uniqueness is so that you're not like, conflicted about that. Or in some strange, like weird competition thing that usually, kind of comes and happens when you get to people that are maybe a little too close to like your specific niche. But like you want to find people that you actually like listening to and that you like their community, right? You like what their community kind of stands for and you like what their message overall stands for. And you want to choose people that are like, I would say for me personally, like I really wouldn't choose someone that has like an under 500 visits per month. Like and that could be like your website, that could be like your 500 YouTube subscribers. That could be like at least a minimum of 500 likes on your Facebook business page. Like 500 is where I'm like, unless I know that person and unless I know that they're really hands-on in their business and that even if they don't have a lot of people, they have a very engaged audience, right? Because that could be more important to me than numbers in particular. So I look for people that I feel like are at peer level with me, right? That I see that they're putting in as much or, pretty similar amount of energy and that they have a similar energy to mine. And so I'll just go on in YouTube especially and just go look at like people and go look at their videos and people who have podcasts and stuff and be like, maybe I might like to work with this person and I'll just, keep a file of that. And then I'll fill out like a thing to get on their show, something like that. I just filled out a couple of them last week. So it's one of those things where putting yourself out there and inviting yourself kind of to be on other people's platforms and putting yourself out there as in pitching yourself to say, I can add value to your audience and your platform. And the key thing too with that is making sure everybody's on the same page that this is a business opportunity, right? So some of the ways that I like that I talk about in Lux Lightworker, some of them are one offering a special discount or code for the other people's show. So like let's say oh, you're a tarot reader and you specialize in spiritual life coaching, and tarot is one of the key things that you utilize. And let's say your niche is like manifestation, right? Law of attraction, that kind of stuff or shadow work, that kind of basic stuff, right? And so you pick someone and you get to go on their show and maybe they are also a tarot reader, but maybe they are like a love and relationship coach too, or something like that. They're maybe the same, similar kind of like umbrella demographic or niche, but like your sub niche is like vastly, vastly different. That doesn't mean that you guys wouldn't possibly see the same people or get the same people asking questions, but your approach and your process is a little bit different. And so what I would say to in that, put together some kind of special offer, whether that's one-on-one or whether that's like selling a workshop like that ideally selling something passive income, right? And so that you don't have to work and you can just make money and it will just show up magically in the bank, right? So picking some kind of workshop that may be like, so if they're a love and relationship coach and you're like, oh, well, I will create a workshop on, um, let's see, how to do tarot readings in such a way that you find out your actual love blocks, right? Not just your manifestation blocks, but like what's blocking you from like self-love or something like that. I would probably go into more direction of like a self-love type of thing. Maybe create like a self-love tarot spread and then maybe create like some kind of like guided, experience and then maybe like some journaling points and film a workshop on that, sell that for like 20 something dollars, right? And then that's what I would pitch. And then I would make a special coupon with the name of that other person's show, and then tell them also I'll give them 10% of sales, something like that as an affiliate opportunity, right? And so I have a lot of those that go out there. I have people that are mine and I get money from them and then I have people that I'm on theirs and I get money from them and it helps keep our economy running and it helps keep the energy and the algorithm afloat because not only are you still active, but you're also harnessing the power of other people's audiences. So you don't have to go out there and spend the ad budget in order to, spend the 2 hours on the workshop, but then you don't have to maybe spend the ad budget if you don't want to, right? Then let the other business spend their ad budget on it if they want to make the affiliate sales. So just an idea. Another one too would be to not just podcast, but like I think where you're gonna find the biggest difference in how quickly this can work for you is to do telesummits. Now, if you've been around for a while, you probably remember I have done like 15 telesummits. We used to do the Summer of Magic. We did also the 12 Days of Christmas, which then turned into the Solstice Spirit. So I have those. I have those already built up. And we had like easily at least a thousand or two, 2,000 people that would come every year. And I would do that summer and I would do that winter. So at the solstices, I would host those. And so people would come in and twice a year they would get the opportunity to capitalize on all of the audience building I've done for the past year. And so it's just a great way to expand on your audience and be able to be seen by a lot of people really, really quickly. Because telesummits are like they're like the online conferences, if you've never heard of those. They're like, they can be like we used to do 2-week long ones or 1-week long ones, but they can be like 3 days long, they can be like 1 day long. I actually have a training on that, it's called the Core 4. If you've ever, been interested in learning how to monetize something like that and learning how to make money from people doing your hosting events, like if you have thought about being an event coordinator within your own business, I have a workshop about that. It's called the Core 4. It's on the website. So www.theprofitablepsychic.com. And so that's another way. And I don't recommend that you do them right away. I recommend that you go do other people's for a little while and get an idea of what that kind of looks like. Because there is a little bit of learning curve to it. There's like a little bit of paperwork involved. There's agreements and things like that. So I would go and be a guest at someone's telesummit, or doing some kind of public speaking, and maybe that's in person, right? So maybe going to more of these metaphysical fairs and these psychic fairs and signing up to be an actual teacher, an actual instructor, because that kind of publicity is something that it's people pay for, right? To get seen in person, especially. So those are some of the key areas that you can kind of ultimately step away from the business and start doing some other things, start setting up some other little micro businesses, start diversifying your income, start utilizing your money in different ways, right? And still allowing the business to help you afford to pay for that, right? Because that's what this is really about. It's about having the systems and strategies in place so that if there is a day or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 that you don't wanna work that week, how are you still bringing in that money? And is it consistent and is it predictable, right? And so these are the questions that we need to ask ourselves. One other key place that I'm gonna leave you off before I leave you guys for today, is going to be around let's see. What was the last thing I wanted? Oh, onboarding. Yeah. Okay, so onboarding is something that nobody really understands the value of onboarding until you want to step away from your business. Onboarding means how do you welcome in new clients? So a new person books a one-on-one with you. What is your process in order to doing that, right? Do you message them? Do you have an automatic scheduler? Do you have an auto response that goes out that includes like their welcome packet and all that kind of stuff? How does that work when you sell courses, when you sell workshops, right? Do you have to manually enroll them? Do you have to manually check that the money is there? Do you have to add them to the Google folder? How can we automate that process? Like, and so it can be a little bit scary, right? Because some of these automation processes involve more money. And so you're looking at probably at least $50 a month to 50 to $100 a month in order to really be able to onboard your business. So that includes things like having an automatic cart that just checks out and adds people to courses. You don't have to do that manually anymore. Setting up your auto responders when you're away or when you sell something that they have to be added to something manually or something like that, right? So, looking at your onboarding process, where is it that you're spending a lot of time doing things in order to set people up within your business that you could potentially automate. And I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I like being hands-on because people feel that and they like that, and that's a good thing. It is a good thing. But there are different ways that you can be hands-on without actually having to move all of the little moving parts, right, yourself. So we find ways to automate, and then we find ways in which we can, show up in a more valuable, deeper way to make it feel more hands-on. So I used to, when people would enroll, I would used to stop what I was doing right away, and I would, go message people. Yeah, hands-on 20%, automate 80%. Sure. That's a really good that's a really great, ratio there. So I used to, and then I would add them to the thing, and then I'd email them, and then I'd find them on Facebook, and then I'd send them voice messages on Facebook, and then, it was a whole process. Like, every time that they would enroll in something, I would stop what I was doing, spend an extra 45 minutes just to get that person set up where they needed to be set up. And then, spend 15 minutes of that doing voice messages and stuff like that. Now, I can very easily and reliably count on, my Thinkific platform to do that for me. I pay $50 or $60 a month, something like that. And then my MailChimp is like $10 a month, and then my auto scheduler I think is like $12 a month. And, so I'm spending probably about $100 a month on that automation. But how many times a month was I spending 45 minutes that I could have been selling in a one-on-one session for $200, right? So if I sold 10 things that month and they each got 45 minutes of personal touch, when that product was meant to be a passive or semi-passive income sale, right? What sense does it make for me to spend 45, 30 minutes, 45 minutes going through the onboarding process? And so I realized that, and I sat down and I was like, you know what? That's $2,000 extra in perceived labor that I'm doing. And so why doesn't it make sense for me to just spend the $100 a month to save that 10 hours to do something else I would rather do more? And so, they go through the whole onboarding thing, it's all added, and then I get to go in and do my voice messages for like 10 minutes, or just message them and see if they're there, and, thank them, at least thank them. So it's more like thanking people, welcoming them in, and not having to like stress about the mental gymnastics of, doing it like bootstrapping all the different ways that we're saving a couple bucks here, saving a couple bucks there, right? At some point, the dam's gonna break, and you're gonna have to, invest the money and invest in the onboarding process. So all right. So next week we are going to be finishing this up. We're going to be talking about how to plot and plan your next big adventure, and I'm really excited about that because I think, like so many of you, still have really, really big dreams that you're like, how am I ever going to get to this point, right? And I want to help you get there faster. So I would love to have you guys enroll in the Luxurious Lightworker program. I really feel like it's the best program I've ever created. It's definitely one of those that's like an A to Z type situation. Like, everything I've talked about, I give like real examples of that. I give scripts, I give templates, I talk about numbers, I talk about things like analytics. Okay, so we talked about, for example, how many videos you need to create to get the algorithm to recognize you. Say 12 weeks. Okay, but how long are those videos? What are the topics of those videos? How do you outline those videos? How do you do the funnel aspect of that? How do you put together the resume or the offer for people that you want to go be on their show? What kind of information do you need to do to give them, and what kind of resume do you need to build? Like, all of this stuff. And I think there's dang near 50 hours of content in there, probably about 200 pages worth of really high quality printable workbooks and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to let you know, guys, know about that, because the podcast is going to be ending here pretty soon. Next week is going to be our last episode until next year, right? The next season, which is going to be like November. So don't want the momentum to end for you. See what I did there, Carolina? I'm gonna put a link. Um, I want you guys to think about getting on into this program, and also there's payment plans on it too. So I have it set up to where it's all you can come in, it's all ready. There's no waiting. It's all ready. You can watch everything right away. It's not drip fed or anything like that. Everything's downloadable right as you get in. And there's actually, if you, I'm scrolling down now, if you go scroll down to the very bottom of the page, it actually has all of the outlines of everything you're going to learn. So, like for example, phase 1 is foundations. So you're coming up with like understanding what your psychic abilities are, understanding the basic business formations, understanding how to put together your new client office protocols, how to utilize social media in the beginning, and then phase 2, credibility. So that's going to be about there's a lot of feminine and masculine wounds that you got to heal, mommy daddy wounds type of things, in order to get out of your own way to make the money that you want to do. And so that's, we focus on that. And then phase 2 is all about shifting out of one-on-ones, so like phasing out of one-on-ones, and then how to begin creating that lead generation and cornerstone content. That cornerstone content, that's what we were talking about in your content vault earlier. Those 12 pieces of content that you need to do in a 90-day process, ideally. You don't have to, but ideally. And then we start talking about how to release problematic clients. You got codependent clients? I'll teach you how to get rid of them, or teach you how to train them so they're not so codependent. And then we start talking about opt-ins. Phase 3 is starting to do more of the speaking gigs, starting to do more of the outsourcing if you want to hire people, delegating to people. That's what that talks about. More about peer-to-peer networking etiquette, which is really kind of like where we've left off in this season of the podcast, is kind of phase 3. But there's phase 4, which is brand rejuvenation. It talks about creating your VIP experiences. So this, like if you want to do retreats, or if you want to do like VIP days, or you want to do really high ticket offers, you want to start moving into like 5,000, 10,000, $20,000 packages. That's what that talks about. And then you're going to get my most coveted thing that I've probably ever created, is the updated brand new sales page template. You want my signature sales page template that has for me, close to $1 million in business. And then for other people, millions more, right? Lots and lots of money. It's $1 million sales page template. And then going into how to grow your net worth. Oh my gosh. So talking more about like um, how to invest your money, right? EFTs and all that kind of stuff, stock market, all that kind of stuff. And then phase 6 really talks about building how, if you guys have ever wondered at how to basically certify people and then have them go out, like creating your own certification program where then people can go out and certify people. And so you like royalties, like how to get royalties, right? And then it ends talking about like how to publish your own spiritual memoir, to publish your own book and tell your own story, things like that. So it's an incredible program. It took me a year to film this program. I have it right now for 444, and it's something that's going to grow with you. It's one of those programs I created that like you'll keep going back to it. And it's also really good, even if you're at some of these like higher end stages, it's still really good, I think, to go back and recheck the checklist, because I have certain checklists before moving on to different aspects of different phases of life and business. And so I think it's nice. I do this myself, as I go back through my own programs and make sure I'm, checking off all of those lists and stuff like that. So that's why I'm doing I think I'm in phase 3, phase 4 right now, going back through that and recycling my old content, right? So that's me talking about doing the blog posts from the podcast and things like that, and figuring out different ways to like recycle the content. So anyway, I will see you guys next week. I hope you have a great Valentine's Day. I hope that you have a great week ahead of you, and I will see you in the next episode.